In this lesson, we're going to experiment a little bit with the ultrasonic sensor. Before continuing, you have some building to do. If you have the educational version of the kit, you'll need to build the ultrasonic module for your robot. In my version of the instruction book, that starts on page 28 and continues through page 30. If you have the commercial version of the kit, the instructions for building the Tribot include directions for building and mounting an ultrasonic module. You can find information about that Tribot on our resources page. In either case, be sure that after you build your ultrasonic module and mount it on your robot, that you use one of those telephone-like wires to connect the ultrasound sensor to port 4 on your NXT. The ultrasonic sensor reports how far it is away from an obstacle in front of it. Theoretically, it can detect objects up to 100 inches or 250 centimeters away, though practically speaking, it's not really usually that accurate. An ultrasonic sensor figures out the distance you are from an object by sending out an ultrasonic ping and then timing how long it takes for the echo of that ping to return back to the sensor. It's easier to understand what I mean if you imagine that instead of sending out ultrasonic pings, just kind of imagine that this sensor is shooting tennis balls out of one of these circle things, and then the tennis ball bounces off my hands, and it's counting the seconds until that tennis ball returns. Imagine that a tennis ball gets shot out of the ultrasonic sensor towards a wall, and as soon as it's shot, you start a timer. Then, when the ball returns back to the other circle on the sensor, you check the time. If you know how fast that ball is traveling, then you can figure out how far you are away from the wall. If it takes a longer time for the ball to return, then you know the object in front of the sensor is further away. This tennis ball analogy also explains why things can go wrong. If there's no obstacle or it's too far away, the tennis ball will never return. If the obstacle is too small, the tennis ball may not hit it, and so it won't return. If the obstacle is too close, the tennis ball may return at too steep an angle, and it may not make it into that circle. And finally, some obstacles are made of materials that absorb some of the tennis ball's energy, preventing it from making it back to the sensor. In all of these cases, if the ball, that is the ultrasonic signal, doesn't return back to the sensor for some reason, then the sensor will report a maximum distance, that is 100 if you've set it to measure in inches, or 250 if you've set it to measure in centimeters. So now that you know something about how the ultrasonic sensor works, let's write a program that will repeatedly play a 3-note tune until the NXT gets a report from the ultrasonic sensor that it's detected an object close by. We're going to be repeating, so we want to get a loop. And now we don't want to loop forever, we want to loop based on a sensor, and it picked the touch sensor, but we don't want that, we want the ultrasonic sensor. And what we want to do is we want to keep looping until the distance is less than, well, let's change that to centimeters, and say less than 25 centimeters. Okay, and inside this loop, let's put some notes. Let's play a tone, let's play a C, maybe for 1/10 of a second. And then we'll play another note, there's a tone, and we'll play a D for, let's make it 1/10 of a second as well. And let's get one more sound block and play a tone. Let's play an E for 1/10 of a second. Okay, let me download. Actually, you know what? Let's add one more block here. Let's add a sound block at the very end. And let's just say, where are we? There we go.
Object detected.
So after we leave the loop, we'll say object detected. So let's download that. Okay, so let's give it a try, and you may notice we've just stuck a little microphone on here so you can hear the robot a little bit better. Let's give it a run. And the loop keeps going until it sees an obstacle. Let me stick my hand in front of it. And then it stops. Okay, by the way, if you look down in this bottom left-hand corner again, if your robot's connected to your laptop and you've downloaded a program that uses the ultrasonic sensor, then if you click somewhere on a block that has the ultrasonic sensor, so I'm clicking on the loop block up here, it shows you my loop configuration panel. And the bottom left corner here, my configuration panel tells me what the current reading is. And since I'm testing in centimeters, it's given me centimeters down here, and it says 255, which basically means it doesn't see anything, right? But if you keep an eye on this little number here, and I put a piece of paper in front of the robot, now you can see it's down to like 15. And if I move it away a little bit, now we've got 25, and I can move it a little bit more, and you see now it's reading about 39. Let's trace through this program step by step to see what's happening. As soon as we begin the program, we arrive at the entrance to the loop, and it says, "Welcome, come in." So we go in. We play the first note, and then we play the second note and the third note. Now we reach the end of the loop, and we have to check whether the ultrasonic sensor detects that there's an object less than 25 centimeters away. Let's pretend that this time it doesn't detect anything that close. So the loop will say, "Do it again." And so here we go again, playing each of the three notes until we end up back at the end of the loop again. And we check whether the ultrasonic sensor detects an object closer than 25 centimeters. Let's pretend that this time the ultrasonic sensor does detect an object closer than 25 centimeters. So the loop says, "Go away," and we continue on to the last block where the NXT says, "Object detected." And then we're at the end of our program. So the NXT does its cleanup routine, it turns off the motors and speaker, and resets the display. That's a pretty cool program in itself, but now let's take it up a notch. Let's have the robot drive forward while we're playing the music and stop as soon as an object's detected. This is actually a pretty simple change to our program. Okay, so let's grab a move block. Oop, come here. Let's grab a move block and stick it at the front of our program. And let's turn that to a move unlimited, and just to make it slightly more exciting, I'm gonna slow down the power a little bit so it moves a little bit more slowly. Let's say we'll do it at 50% power. And so we're gonna loop, 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 playing the music, and then at the end, I'm gonna have a stop right before we say object detected. And you know, at this point, the program's getting long enough and complicated enough that I think it's worth putting in a couple of comments. So let me just grab that comment tool, and I'll click right here, and I'm gonna say waiting until, I can spell waiting until less than 25 cm. And maybe right here, I'll write, say, object detected. There we go. And let me just switch back to that tool. Okay, cool. Let me download. Okay, let's give it a shot. Not bad, eh? Okay, let's trace our new program and make sure we understand what's happening. This first block tells us to turn on the power to the motors, so the NXT does that, and then continues on to the next block. We arrive at the entrance to the loop, and it says, "Welcome, come in," so we go in. Our motors continue to run while we arrive at that first sound block and play the note. And we continue to move while we play the second note and the third note. We're still moving as we reach the end of the loop. And now we have to check whether the ultrasonic sensor detects that there's an object less than 25 centimeters away. Let's pretend it doesn't detect anything that close. So the loop will say, do it again. And here we go again. The robot is still moving as it plays each of the 3 notes one after the other until we end up back at the end of the loop again. And we'll check whether the ultrasonic sensor detects an object closer than 25 centimeters. And let's pretend that this time the ultrasonic sensor does detect an object closer than 25 centimeters. So the loop says go away, and when we leave the loop, we arrive at this move block that stops our motors. Then, no longer moving, we say object detected, and our program's complete. Okay, just because this is so much fun, let's run that program one more time.